Hi, Steve Mera here, and welcome to episode 3 of Project Enigma. I'm going to be delving into in this episode about going against the current narrative, and that sometimes it's not actually worth coming out and talking about your conclusions. Just as John Keel got shunned in 1967, J. Allen Hynek in 1977 also concluded things that went against the narrative and was also shunned and ended up having to go and work with Jacques Vallée for 3 years, who again later came out with his conclusions and again was shunned. It wasn't good to go against the narrative at that time. However, the narrative is changing in more modern times and we're seeing change. We're also going to be looking into early versions of contact cases with NHI, who was involved, where they did it and why. And also looking into that the belief of the UFO phenomena as a direct impact regarding experiencing it. I hope that you enjoy this episode. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and thank you very much.
Mead Lane, 1882 to 1961, was the author of a book, The Coming of Guardians. He was an American academic and early researcher of ufology and parapsychology, best known for proposing an early version of the interdimensional hypothesis to explain UFO sightings and their occupants. Lane was the founder and first director of the Borderland Sciences Research Associates, and in February 1945, Mead began publishing a newsletter titled Round Robin. On October 14, 1946, nearly a year before Kenneth Arnold's first sighting, Lane achieved national notoriety when the Y Service carried a story of Lane's claims of a seance circle that was in telepathic communication with NHI. Lane speculated that rather than representing advanced military or ET technology, these varied flying crafts were piloted by beings from parallel dimensions, and many of these crafts are often invisible to the naked eye. He further claimed that various governments were aware of these types of interdimensional encounters and were investigating them. In 1950, the press covered Lane's publication of Flying Discs, the Ether Ship Mystery and its Solution. Lane also publicised earlier stories about strange UFO occupants being only around 3 feet in height. During a specialised committee in 1977, Professor J. Allen Hynek stated, "Do we have two aspects of one phenomenon or two different sets of phenomena? We must ask whether the diversity of UFOs all spring from the same basic source. I hold it entirely possible that a technology exists which encompasses both the physical and the psychic, and material and the mental." The final results of the 1955 Project Blue Book Special Report number 14 was widely rejected by the UFO community because it concluded that UFOs show no evidence of being of extraterrestrial origin. On September 14th, 2023, NASA released its findings pertaining to its highly anticipated report of the study of UFOs. They concluded that even though they are aware of seemingly good evidence of sightings, visual recordings and technical data, they concluded that there was not enough evidence to suggest that UFOs are extraterrestrial in origin. Interesting. Just 2 weeks later, on September the 30th, the world press was abuzz with remarks from well-known UFO author and researcher Leslie Kean, who had stated that UFOs are connected to the paranormal and the supernatural. In February 2024, ARROW, the All-Domain Anomaly Research Office, situated at the Pentagon, conducted a thorough study of the phenomenon and released their findings within a report. They also concluded that there was not enough evidence to support the theory that such UAP are in fact extraterrestrial in origin. We're starting to see a significant effort to shift the narrative away from the extraterrestrial hypothesis to the interdimensional hypothesis, and from ETs to NHIs, non-human intelligences, even at a Pentagon level, during the fruitless endeavours of the recent UAP hearings. Now, Dr. Jacques Vallée used AI computers to assist him in his research of the UFO phenomena, and he stated, "The phenomena is made visible and tangible only to selected people, and the doors that lead through it are tangential points. And when the underlying archetypes are extracted, the source and myth is seen to coincide to a remarkable degree with the fairy faith of Celtic countries, and the widespread belief among all peoples concerning entities whose physical and psychological descriptions place them in the same category as the present-day UFOnauts." Again, just like John Keel, Vallée's conclusions caused him to be ostracised from the UFO community for many years. In 1969, Vallée thought that he had no choice but to publicly renounce his support for the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the ETH, and argued fiercely against it, stating, "The ETH has a significant problem in regard to ignoring the evidence." Vallée also concluded that UFOs are not physical but paranormal in nature and demonstrate metaphysical properties, as well as their craft, which often seem to be conscious themselves, as if they are living beings as opposed to mechanical vehicles or controlled machinery. Both UFOs and their occupants are a form of manifestation and represent the exact same phenomena we have been reckoning with for millennia. Vallée argued that these were continued phenomena all from the same source, and that they have different disguises in different historical and social contexts. These are all the same beings, and there are ways to tell. Whether the creatures come down from a flying saucer or musical baskets, whether they come from the sea or the rock, it's irrelevant. What is relevant is what they say and do. It's what my colleague Barry Fitzgerald has stated all along. The mask is forever changing, but the phenomenon stays the same. The trace they leave in the human witness and incidents that verge on the ludicrous, which is a facet of the phenomenon we can no longer ignore. He went on to say, "All humans rely on logic to navigate life. Logic guides our decisions, answers our questions, and grounds us with order and predictability in a complex world. Because logic is so vital for our functioning and psychological well-being, the human need for things to make sense is one of our most vulnerable, sensitive weak points. If reality stops making sense, our cognitive frameworks would break down and thrust us into a crisis. Because we are so incredibly vulnerable to this, humans have natural defense mechanisms to deal with these experiences and information that defy our expectations and beliefs. We cope by rationalizing, denying, dismissing, or mentally disassociating. We would sooner question our eyesight or sanity before questioning our reality. On many occasions, these phenomena utilize acts of absurdity as a primary weapon and strategy against us. As a weapon, absurdity attacks our rational brain. By exhausting it, our brains are not designed to process information and situations that defy logic. Trying to process absurdity is taxing, and when we have absurd experiences, our brains can become so stressed that it can verge on shutting down. A fatigued rational brain gradually loses its ability to process or think critically, or concentrate, control our emotions, and make good decisions. It can leave us wide open to deception and manipulation because these experiences can severely handicap our brain's ability to judge credibility and trustworthiness, making it difficult to recognize the difference between truth and false information. These absurdities created by the phenomena are a process of psychological warfare on humans. In a 1953 official CIA document, it reads, "I am today transmitting to the National Security Council a proposal in which it is concluded that the problems connected with unidentified flying objects appear to have implications for psychological warfare, as well as for intelligence and operations." This document was signed by Walter B. Smith, the director of the CIA. Dr. Hugh Ross, a well-known astrophysicist, stated the following: "Some UFOs seem to crash into the ground, leaving craters and damage to the plants and surrounding area. Yet there is no debris or artifacts found on many occasions. Also, they don't seem to create sonic booms. These UFOs are seemingly operating in a different dimension to those of the universe. The true UFO phenomena seemingly can skirt our reality. As an example, UFOs filmed entering and leaving water are often seen leaving no wakes." Jim Semivan, the Central Intelligence Agency's Senior Intelligence Service, stated, "It comes close, it teases us, it cajoles us, it lies to us, but you can never take it home to meet the parents. It won't allow you to do that. This is what I call the theory of wow." Similar references like this, like WSFM in CIA internal memos when referencing the UFO phenomena, where WSFM simply meant weird science and freaking magic. Dr. Hugh Ross also stated, "UFO close encounters have resulted in the death of people and animals. Such encounters are often deleterious. There is also evidence that deception is involved. These are incidents revealed through hypnosis that experiencers have received some kind of programmed memory of the event by NHIs. Can we really ever trust our memories?" There is a scientific testable model for the UFO phenomena showing that experiencers who have communicated with NHIs have had paranormal experiences and have interests in the occult.
But what's interesting about these close encounters, it's never beneficial. It's always deleterious. The best you're going to come away from with one of these encounters is recurring, terrifying nightmares. Worst case scenario, you get killed. So they're harmful, but there's also evidence that there's deception involved in these encounters. And then you've got those cases where the human contactee goes into a trance, and then they begin to type out what the UFO being wants them to communicate. These fallen angels can take whatever form they choose. They can appear as your dead grandfather. They can appear as a flying saucer. They can appear as a leprechaun. And so that's why it tells us in 1 John, test the spirits. Don't believe every supernatural being that approaches you. Put them to the test.
These NHIs can appear to be anything they want. Test them. Do not readily accept what they appear to be. Benjamin Franklin was part of a Masonic lodge that was a Muse lodge. Franklin may have been in communications with NHI as well. His revolutionary ideas brought about the invention of cultural changing products and creations. Then we have George Van Tassel, who quit his job at Lockheed in 1947 as an aeronautical engineer and moved to the Mojave Desert, same location as Parsons, to a crypt underneath Giant Rock. There he claimed to be channeling NHIs and receiving telepathic communication. There George was inspired to build the Integratron, a resonance healing chamber. Research carried out by my colleague Barry Fitzgerald confirmed that the interest around Giant Rock was not initiated by the sighting of UFOs. It was apparently the sighting of 3 NHIs seen to walk out of the rock itself. George Hunt Williamson was an anthropologist who moved to Arizona, and through the use of a Ouija board and then onto using old radios just like Baki, claimed he was in contact with NHIs. He also claimed they communicated with him telepathically and through the process of channeling. Interestingly, Williamson attended George Van Tassel's channeling sessions in his crypt. It is documented that Williamson achieved the ability to conjure and manifest NHI into our reality. The Williamsons, the Baileys, George Adamski and 2 of his associates headed into the desert and allegedly had meetings with NHIs. American journalist Tucker Carlson has also spoken out about congressional hearings on UAP, and after speaking with a number of specialists who have been associated with government UAP programs, he now believes that the nature of this phenomena is somewhat dark.
The second thing that bothers me is the UFO story. And the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And I understand that. Because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that. But I do think there's a sense in which that's not totally crazy. Like there is some stuff, if it's true, and I'm kind of thinking it may be true, that's so radical that, as we both said, we don't want to tell the people we love most about it. Why would you, disturb someone like that? So I kind of get that. I hate to admit it. I'm not arguing for hiding things. I believe in the truth and I believe in disclosure, but I understand the impulse. Like, holy smokes, this is heavy.
Luis Elizondo, in more recent interviews, seems to have suddenly changed his opinion about the subject of UAP and believes that some phenomena is not what we thought. Tom DeLonge has also stated the same.
I think there would be this big exhale for about a day, and then this turning inward and trying to reflect on what this means to us and our species and ourselves. Somber meaning serious, not like Hollywood portrays people partying in the streets and silliness like that. I think you would have some people perhaps turning to religion more so. You might have some people turning away from religion. I think you're going to have, at that point, the philosophical and theological questions will be raised, and people will have some serious soul searching to do, no pun intended. I think the scientific and academic community is going to have to take a real hard look at itself.
Imagine everything you've been taught, whether it's through Sunday school or through regular formal education in school, or what our political leaders have told us. And yes, even maybe our mothers and fathers around the dinner table have told us, or maybe at bedtime, about who we are, right? And our background and our past. What if all of that turned out to be not entirely accurate? In fact, the very history of our species, the meaning, what it means to be a human being and our place in this universe. What if all that is now in question? What if it turns out that a lot of the things that we thought were one way are we prepared to have that honest question with ourselves? Are we prepared to recognize that we're not at the top of the food chain, potentially? That we're not the alpha predator, that we are maybe somewhere in the middle? There's going to come a point in this conversation where we're going to have to do a lot of reconciling with ourselves, whatever that means, from whatever philosophical background you have.
In a closed room presentation, the Pentagon advised the Undersecretary of the Department of Defense that this phenomena is capable of manipulating human perception and consciousness, and that such experiences are not the product of hallucinations or illusions. On more than one occasion, during a number of paranormal experiments involving communications with NHIs, they have stated that they present themselves in numerous ways. Some experiencers suffer from what can only be described as psychological infestation brought on by the phenomena. In a quote from the US defense official on UFO studies, investigations were hampered because some people's belief in God meant that they either didn't believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life or that they regarded UFOs and extraterrestrials as demonic. Now, this episode would not be complete without giving some reference to the Collins Elite. The Collins Elite allegedly consisted of 12 ex-military members based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base back during the 1950s and looked into Aleister Crowley's Alamantra working in 1918, also known as sex magic, which was said to be able to bring NHI into physical manifestation. Ray Bosch, a MUFON state director, claimed he had met with project members back in 1991, and that they explained to him that the Pentagon had formed the project as a way of trying to communicate with NHIs. It's interesting to point out that even those taking part in the Skinwalker Ranch TV show have subtly introduced sulfur detection alert meters. Such odours have been associated with many reports and encounters with cryptids, UAP, the paranormal, and even demonological. Then we have UFO and biological materials, or gifts from the gods. Could some UFOs purposely explode, have parts fall off them, expel or shed material, or even intentionally crash as an offering or sacrifice to boost human technological achievements? So when discussing UFO crashes, materials and artifacts, we have to ask the question, why do UFOs crash, shed materials, parts fall off them, or even explode in mid-air? We also have to ask about the legitimacy of a 4% isotopic differential created in a zero-G environment and that can react to terahertz light frequencies and the microscopic layering. Does this phenomenon sacrifice to boost human technological advancement? Secret experiments have and are being carried out in space surrounding genetic cell production, 3D printing, and metallurgy in regard to metamaterial research in a zero-gravity environment. It is even rumoured that some materials have been recovered in space around planet Earth. The Pentagon announced that there had been a 270 plus UFO reports between August 2022 and August 2023. This sudden increase coincides with a significant amount of media coverage on the subject of UFOs, which in turn causes many to shift their belief to supporting their existence, much like believing is seeing rather than seeing is believing. It is interesting that there does seem to be a direct association between belief and experiences. Belief in the subject of UFOs seemingly increases the opportunity of witnessing UFOs. If the UFO phenomenon was a religion, this correlation would constitute faith. In this statistical survey map from the year 2000 to 2003, its conclusion supports that the UFO phenomena seemingly prefer locations of remoteness. It would seem, for as long as we've been documenting history that is, that these phenomena have been interacting with humankind since the very beginning. Their influence stands the test of time, and even in current times is relentless. I'd like to thank you for watching, and in our next episode we will be delving into some of the darker aspects of UAP encounters where many have seemingly wished that they had never come into contact with. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon to be alerted to when our next video is up. Thank you very much.